Boruto and Momoshiki will become one, and none of them realize it at the current moment. This theory is one of the craziest theories that I have discussed in a while, but with all the information that we currently have on Boruto and Momoshiki's current situation, it appears like this is most likely going to happen, as although I do not like how this theory sounds, everything is pointing towards this path being the case. And ultimately, it does really stem from chapter 75, and all the information that we are given regarding Momoshiki and Boruto from then on. So, to first understand what I mean by Boruto and Momoshiki becoming one, we have to go back to chapter 75, as everything really changed from that point on. In chapter 75, not only do we get to see the epic glimpse of future that Boruto has, which ultimately foreshadowed omnipotence and Boruto essentially losing everything, we did see that come to be. However, one other aspect of the chapter that was important was the relationship of Momoshiki and Boruto, in which we learned that Boruto and Momoshiki's minds were merging. This allowed Boruto and Momoshiki to not only have conversations in their heads, but it also allowed Boruto to tap into some of the future prophecies that Momoshiki himself was capable of seeing. This is what we end up learning in chapter 75, and one thing that was quite important to that chapter is the fact that both Momoshiki and Boruto could not control this. This is basically an exception to the rule, where Momoshiki, just as a soul, was inside Boruto and could no longer resurrect, which is something that defied the properties of the karma, which entire purpose is to allow an Otsutsuki to come back. The problem in this case was that Momoshiki had essentially changed the remaining DNA that he had to allow Boruto to come back from the killing blow that Kawaki gave him, which means that Boruto has his own soul in his body and the soul of Momoshiki, which is something that is never supposed to happen, as a body is only supposed to have one soul. So even theoretically, it does make sense that Boruto and Momoshiki's soul are merging. This is quite different from a Jinchuriki, who is basically chakra being inside of somebody else, being sealed inside of somebody's body. This is quite different, as Momoshiki is not just chakra, he is an actual person, an actual Otsutsuki, which is why their soul merging into one, as there only is supposed to be one soul in one body, does end up making a lot of sense. And with the information that we now learn concerning Momoshiki and Boruto in the time skip, things are becoming a lot scary now that we know that Boruto is going to end up using the karma, as this has been something that has been weighing on my mind for a while now. The fact that we have a different situation when it comes to the karma ever since chapter 75, where ever since chapter 75, Boruto has a completely different relationship with the karma. We did still see him use the karma in chapter 78, but when we hear that Boruto attempts to use the karma versus code, we see a completely different scenario, where, as Boruto quotes himself, during the fight between Boruto and Sasuke versus Code, Boruto stated that when he wanted to use the karma, he felt like he was dying. Activating the karma brought this feeling to Boruto as if he would cease to exist. And why is that? This doesn't really match up with anything that we have seen take place, with the fact that we have a Boruto in the past who, whenever Momoshiki was trying to take over, there were a set few conditions that had to be met, regardless of Boruto himself using the karma. One of these is a physical injury, where Boruto is physically injured, which then brings the opportunity for Momoshiki to take over. We saw it when Boruto got his eye scarred, and we also saw it when Boruto ended up fighting versus Code and had a heart attack due to using a Byakugan pill, which is supposed to suppress Otsutsuki genetics, and he was using the karma at the same time. So obviously those two things clashed, leading to Boruto having a heart attack. And another situation was Boruto no longer having chakra. The only problem with this is that Boruto never described this feeling of Momoshiki taking over as a feeling of him dying. It would simply be Boruto losing consciousness. Boruto wouldn't feel like he is dying. He would simply no longer cease to remember the things that were happening, having a gap in his memory. But now, with Boruto actually having a feeling of dying, which causes him to be so scared that he refuses to use the karma himself, and then opts to learn different moves that allow him to not be so dependent on the karma, it means that this situation is completely different from anything that we have seen in the past, which means that this is another exception to the rule. And with the fact that Boruto and Momoshiki being two souls in the same body is already an exception to the rule, we are seeing right now two instances where Boruto and Momoshiki's current relationship, due to Momoshiki not being able to be resurrected, is leading to exceptions of the rule coming to be. And with the fact that the karma's entire purpose is to prevent this from happening, it makes a lot of sense why Boruto now, when he is using the karma, he is feeling like he is going to die, as the karma may be trying to bring Boruto and Momoshiki's relationship back to where it's supposed to be, meaning one soul in one body, where Boruto and Momoshiki's own individual existence would cease to exist, and a combination of both Boruto and Momoshiki would then emerge. This would prove all the foreshadowing that we have currently seen, why Boruto and Momoshiki's minds are merging. If they are certain to merge, there is going to be a stage where they become one identity of Momoshiki and Boruto. And if Boruto feels like he is dying using the karma, it means that this process is attached to the karma, which is Momoshiki's powers. Being connected to that of Boruto is the thing that is causing this merger to take place. So when Boruto says that he is dying, he is not dying in the literal sense. His body is not actually coming to an end. What is coming to an end is Boruto's own individual identity, and somehow it is connected to Momoshiki. And the reason why this is very important, and Boruto and Momoshiki are not personally realizing this on their own, is due to the fact that on Boruto's side, he may feel like the reason why he is not capable of using the karma is due to Momoshiki, due to the simple fact that Momoshiki is trying to take over. But with Momoshiki himself, he has completely given up on the idea of resurrecting in Boruto's own body, due to the simple fact that Momoshiki knows that Boruto would eventually somehow be able to take back control of Boruto's body. So he has completely given up, as is stated in chapter 25. So we have both people who are almost blaming each other for the current situation that they have, and they are coming back together, and they're believing that the issue at hand is going to be solved. The issue of the karma, which both of them are pointing at each other when it comes to the fault. Momoshiki blames Boruto for not giving up, and Boruto blames Momoshiki for preventing him from using the karma. However, it is both out of their control. Just like how both Boruto and Momoshiki were not able to stop the merger and didn't really understand why it was taking place, it is the same reason why both of them don't understand that the karma is the thing in fact that is causing all of these issues to align. So even if Boruto and Momoshiki create this deal, they will both end up losing in a way, losing an aspect of their identity. And this is just a possibility. Obviously, I'm not saying that it is 100% certain, and it is a theory that I personally don't want to see take place. But am I going to lie to you guys and tell you guys that this isn't something that is currently being hinted towards? Obviously not. I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. So we could be seeing Momoshiki and Boruto's identities merge, where it will cease to be Boruto or Momoshiki individually, it will be both of them. And in a way, it would make a lot of sense if we discuss how it would fit in to what is being presented to us in the first chapter of the Boruto series, where we have a Boruto who says that I am still a ninja. Boruto's identity going alongside that of Momoshiki may be the very thing that is allowing Boruto to say that even if me and Momoshiki are one, I am still Boruto at the end of the day. And if we do know that Momoshiki's soul is in Boruto, and it basically means that Momoshiki is not able to die if Boruto doesn't die, it still would now make sense that Boruto is using the karma if they are both one. If Momoshiki and Boruto do not have this deal, if you don't believe in the theory at all, if Momoshiki and Boruto do not have this deal, Boruto cannot use the karma at all. But Boruto using the karma in the time skip means that either Momoshiki and Boruto have befriended each other, either Momoshiki is no longer in Boruto's body and has either perished or made it out some way to be in somebody else's body, or Boruto and Momoshiki have become one identity, a combination of Otsutsuki Momoshiki and that of Boruto Otsutsuki. And it would make a lot of sense with everything that is currently being discussed and everything that is currently being pointed towards. And although this theory does have the Boruto that we do see in the time skip be almost a completely different entity to the Boruto that we see now, it is not like this is coming out of nowhere. There is foreshadowing to explain everything that is taking place. So what it would mean is that when Boruto fights versus Jiraiya, Boruto will end up using the karma, and for some odd reason, even though he still made a deal with Momoshiki, he will feel as if he is dying. And with that feeling, it is not going to be something he is able to stop. At this point, it is going to lead to Boruto and Momoshiki's merger being completely finished, where Boruto and Momoshiki's identities become one. They become one soul in one body. And ultimately, Boruto would then have the power to be able to defeat Jiraiya, as their fusion will come together, or the fusion of Boruto and Momoshiki ultimately allows us to see the Jogan being displayed, where in the manga, this is how Boruto ends up awakening the Jogan. And in a way, Boruto would have completed his final destiny, as he would have truly lost everything. He would have lost himself due to Momoshiki. So every single aspect of this theory does check out. Boruto's destiny, Boruto's Jogan, Boruto still being a shinobi, and Boruto's harsh reality. The fact that we have always had this feeling that Boruto was going to die, sacrificing himself to be able to save the world. And in a way, that is exactly what he is doing. So why exactly are Boruto and Momoshiki fighting? The answer to that question may be due to a simple vessel that Momoshiki has implanted. So Kawaki sealing Boruto instead of killing Boruto would mean that Momoshiki is not capable of reviving himself into that different body. And thus he has to seal Boruto / Momoshiki in that Daikokoden dimension so that Momoshiki is never capable of reviving himself in a different body. That is just a simple way of thinking of it, but obviously we don't know exactly what path that Ikemoto is going to take. But if you found this path that I discussed to be quite compelling concerning Momoshiki potentially having another vessel, you have to watch this video right here, as I discuss everything that may be pointing to that being Momoshiki's plan for the very next future.